Good evening, everyone. I'm Lissy Bastian with your JCN News for this Wednesday, August 26. Thanks for joining us. The Ministry of Health yesterday confirmed 15 additional COVID-19 cases in the country, with 2 more deaths under investigation. The additional cases of coronavirus brings the total number of confirmed cases to 1,813 and the number of deaths to 48. Of the 15 additional cases, 10 are here in the capital, 2 in Grand Bahama, and 3 in Bimini. There's now a total of 1,039 confirmed cases in New Providence, 525 in Grand Bahama, 66 in Abaco, 53 in Bimini, 19 in Exuma, 15 in the Berry Islands, 8 confirmed cases in both Cat Island and Inagua, 5 in Eleuthera, 4 in Ackland, 2 in Crooked Island, and 1 in Andros. 68 confirmed cases with locations are pending. As for the 2 deaths reported, health officials say the details will be released once they've properly classified them. 1 more death has been classified as a non-COVID related death. That category now stands at 6. There are now 1,125 active cases in country, 79 of those cases hospitalized, and recoveries now stand at 634. 10,192 tests have been completed thus far. News of the world's first case of COVID-19 reinfection is very unfortunate and daunting news, and that's according to Director of the National HIV, AIDS, and Infectious Diseases Program, Dr. Nakia Forbes.
When you have a new outbreak virus, you learn more and more about it every day. Before today's report, we had reason to think that immunity from COVID-19 would last for some period of time, based on our previous experiences with viruses like this, the MERS-CoV and the first SARS, and we knew immunity could last for 6 months or maybe longer, and there had been no reports that anyone had been reinfected.
Despite being relatively sure reinfection would not occur, on August 23rd, Hong Kong scientists reported that a 33-year-old male had contracted the COVID-19 virus again 4 months after his first bout with the disease. The male had traveled to Spain, and when tested, the strain of the virus he had contracted was different from the first. Dr. Forbes confirms what this means.
That means that you could be reinfected with COVID-19 and that immunity may not last. And it is challenging when we think about that. What does it mean now in terms of the possibility of reinfections or lasting immunity? Here's the first case reported today. We will wait and hear more, but definitely daunting, not good based upon what we've heard.
It is reported that the male patient was completely asymptomatic when he contracted COVID-19 for the second time. From the Ministry of Finance's perspective, it looks like a late October, early November restart of the tourism industry as the world over continues to battle with COVID-19. Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance Peter Turnquest says that the time frame is where the budget forecast puts the government's plans of reopening the sector, and hopefully that deadline can be met. Now, over the last several weeks since the country opened its borders, some have criticized the government for reopening the borders to international travel back in July, feeling as if tourists were the reason behind the uptick in new cases. Well, the Deputy Prime Minister shot down those criticisms.
Less than 1% of those new infections came from foreigners. They were primarily domestic cases or persons who traveled and brought back the virus. So we can put into place strategies to quarantine or mitigate the risk that the tourists would provide. But it is us that we have to be concerned about. Obviously, we don't want to have a situation where foreigners can come and go and Bahamians can't come and go.
The Bahamas is battling the second wave of COVID-19, which has had a major impact on the tourism industry and the economy. When asked if the country will see an increase in value-added tax due to this financial crisis, Minister Turnquest says not at the moment. Before the borders officially reopened in July, there were only 104 cases in the country within a 3-month span. Since July 8th, over 1,000 cases have been recorded. Well, the deputy leader of the Progressive Liberal Party, Chester Cooper, striking back against the Ministry of Finance's projected fall reboot for the reopening of the international borders, and he's calling for the review of the National Treasury. He told reporters this much today in Rawson Square.
Before we can talk about what the economy looks like in November, we must look to see where we are at the moment. We must look at the various metrics, and we can see then how we can forecast moving forward.
Mr. Cooper added that the opposition's calling for the government to give sight to the Treasury Committee of Parliament all of the loans and loan agreements signed this year.
In the Ministry of Finance, to give sight to the opposition and the Treasury Committee of Parliament all of the loans and the loan agreements signed this year. The Minister of Finance is on record talking about bridge financing by the CDB and the IDB and the World Bank. And we know that there were loans from the IMF, and we need to have sight of the loan agreements so that we can make our own assessment as to what's being done, especially during this period.
In the meantime, Mr. Cooper says it's important that we know what we are committing ourselves to. The deputy leader also calling for a sight of the Fiscal Responsibility Council report, which he notes by law is the council's responsibility to report aspects of the economy. When we return, the country's latest homicide, respects paid to former senator and the father of the nation remembered. You're watching JCN News. Stay with us.
This segment of the news was brought to you by Alive.